Right now, we are telling jokes that we can't say on the YouTubes, and because it's not that kind of show, it's Bid Nerds, your daily nerd out on the most interesting cars of the day. On Cars and Bids and Bring a Trailer, you people have no idea what happens over here before we hit the record button. Good morning, everyone. My name is John Polnik. I'm your host of Bid Nerds. I'm coming to you live from Las Vegas, Nevada, right on the Vegas Strip. The Vegas Strip is right over there. I'm pointing towards Michael Deeb, but actually I should be pointing that way or that way or something like that. Yeah, that's the way. The Las Vegas Strip is literally 10 feet that way. If I walk out this door off my balcony, it's about 300 feet down. So there you go. So don't go too far that way. You got Michael Deeb over here coming to you from San Francisco Bay. Is it still raining there, Michael Deeb?
No, the sun has come out. It's a beautiful day, JP.
Okay.
There's light in the Deeb studio. Yeah, it's great. Glorious.
And
glorious
it is not artificial. Well, thank you everybody for hanging out with us this morning. If you know the show, you know that what we do is we kind of nerd out on all these cars. When you get up in the morning and look at Cars and Bids, you look at Bring a Trailer, you look at maybe P-Car Market, some of the other auction sites, and you're like, okay, how can I accidentally empty my bank account today? How can I possibly ruin my relationship with my spouse or my significant other? In what way can I completely destroy my life by acquiring yet another classic car? You know you have that problem. You know everybody that's close to you in life has said, please get help. Just take up heroin. Start shooting up some kind of hardcore drugs. It's going to be way easier than this classic car addiction you have. We are here to help. And by help we mean what is it when you facilitate someone's bad habits? Enabling, I believe is the word I was looking for.
That's right.
We are here to enable bad habits. So we pick a bunch of cars on Cars and Bids and Bring a Trailer, and we nerd out about these things, and we also make predictions about what we think they'll sell for, or not sell for sometimes, because oftentimes we believe they won't, and that is the case. And we keep track of our predictions, and usually I'm way better at it than Michael D. But yesterday, wow, did he have a good day. Before we get to today's cars, let's go ahead and talk about yesterday, because yesterday had some interesting auctions, and I'm genuinely surprised by some of the numbers from yesterday.
JP, I have one question after looking at what yesterday's results. Did you put your shoes on in a different order? Like, did you do the right one first instead of the left one?
Look at this. Now, how often do I just completely smoke your A and get Yahtzees? And do I gloat like this? Never.
Yeah, well,
I was magnanimous.
I was asking,
very gracious.
I was asking.
He's asking me if I have a mental problem.
Does this sound like I'm gloating? Because it should. Oh man,
hey, every dog has his day.
Well, yesterday it rained, and when I came in the house and did the show, I wiped my feet on John Polnik yesterday. So let's start.
I will tell you one thing about yesterday that I did get right. At the end of the show, I did say, I believe you're going to sweep today. I think all of my predictions are wrong.
You did say that.
So I may have been off on my predictions for the cars, but as usual, I was right about everything. Ask my wife, and you'll know how true that is. All right, so what cars do we have yesterday?
She's in the kitchen baking a humble pie for you. So our star car was the '89 Ford Mustang GT. JP, this was I don't know, a Night Ranger song away from a chemically induced flashback. This car was really cool.
Night Ranger,
it was really, really good condition. And even I have to say, JP, I kept saying throughout the show, it killed me that this car didn't have a stick. Yeah. But I love that you said that you had one that was automatic, and it was still a blast to drive, because I imagine with 300 pound-foot of torque, that thing will smoke the tires in probably anything but freeway speed. So anyway, really cool car, 60-something 100 miles. I can't remember where it was located, to be perfectly honest, but I said 19,000. You actually bet under me. I think believing that the lack of a manual was really going to hold it back, when you and I both agreed that this car appeared to boomers and a younger generation together.
Yeah, two different markets were battling for this car.
Right. And so anyways, this car got bid up. It was a great run. The car sold for $25,750. Congratulations to the seller, because you definitely got every last penny out of that thing.
You found the oh yeah, no, go ahead.
And congratulations to the buyer. You bought a perfectly preserved Fox body, which you and I, JP, will attest to the buyer. That is not easy to find. That's a unicorn.
It was probably the bass player of Night Ranger. Loving every minute of it.
Yeah, totally. Oh my God, that's
okay. So yeah. All right. Danger Zone.
And then we looked at we jumped over to cars and bids to start with a 2020 Cadillac CT6V. This is the car that they made in ridiculously limited numbers with the vaunted and mysterious Blackwing V8, which makes 550 horsepower, but a whopping 640 pound-foot of torque. So John, these things that base MSRP is $95,000, which means every one of these is over $100,000. But while Cadillac bragged that the car was sold out before they even hit dealerships have new ones that are sitting unsold on their lots. So way to go, Cadillac. Hire Miss Chloe.
I'm sorry. Were you talking?
Yeah, I know.
This is the most boring car we have talked about on the show ever. I fell asleep. Sorry, audience.
I thought that this car, with its limited production, might have a the possibility to hold value. I was wrong. I said 75,000. You said 70. This car did bring 78 grand. But that is $25,000 under MSRP with just 1,500 miles on it. It's like any other used car. Turns out it's not that special after all. You can get one, and like John said, in another 6 months, you'll be able to pick one up for like $48,000.
Yep.
So if you're patient, you'll listen to my partner because he's usually right about this shit.
Usually.
The big surprise of the day was our 1980 Porsche 911 SC Weissach. On Bring a Trailer, a 61,000 mile gold colored one, which I'm sorry, Porsche calls platinum, which is not platinum, it's gold. Even my wife said, look, it's gold. I said 52,000. You bet the over at 55. And this car was only bid up to $49,000. John, I think this car was in Florida. I don't think that should hold it back. Because there's not, I mean, SCs are on the move. It's a coupe, reasonable miles, reasonable condition for the miles. Why did this car fail to hit its mark? Do you have a quick
look
take
at
on
this
that?
Picture right here? That sure looks like repaint to me.
All right,
if you look
there
at
you
the
go.
body seals, and it looks like kind of poor repaint. And I don't, I mean, a car of this age. I mean, look at where the seam is coming together. That just looks like overspray to me, and
a bad panel gap. To be honest, look at how you can put your finger in there.
Yeah. So I think people sniffed that out and said, all right, something's a little fishy here. That doesn't mean it's a terrible car or one you wouldn't want to own. It's just not going to bring the premium that an exclusive car like this should.
Could. Yeah, or should.
Could. Yeah. And then,
I want to commend you. You pointed that out yesterday. You talked about that as we were signing off on this car. You said, this might be something going on here.
Yeah.
I thought you did.
But it still brought money, So, I mean, $49,000 for an SC of any type.
But it was only bid
less
to
than a year ago.
It didn't sell. That was bid to. So this the question I have is, where did the consignor and where did Bring a Trailer agree to set this reserve for what was not an A grade car, right? This was not a top quality car.
Yeah, that conversation must have been interesting because it does. Yeah, there it is. They add to the hype. I mean, even at BAT, they're getting caught up in everything. Any 911 coupe is going to be worth $1 gajillion, and it's just like not necessarily the case. I think the paint and the location were the two big things.
The thing that did it in for me was the driver's seat, which is really funny. I'm fanatic about a driver's seat, and it usually tells you if the car's been cared for or not. And this one looked like it had just been gotten in and out of as a daily driver and not really lovingly cared for like you and I would do.
You mean the owner didn't love every minute of it? It's a Night Ranger day. It's You brought up Night Ranger, so I'm sticking with the theme.
There we go. All right, and then we looked at this bomb-ass 2004 Corvette Z06 commemorative edition, whatever it means. It was the top of the line as far as actual performance from the Corvette Z06 on what we agreed was the C5 platform. I really don't speak Corvette. I said 30. You took the under at 29, and our 20,000 mile example with the carbon hood brought a whopping $33,500. Again, well sold. For 20,000 miles, spending almost 35 on this car, I would not say that's well bought.
What I don't understand is okay, you can see here that you're right. It's got a carbon hood. All right, which on steel car that makes sense, but this is a car that's made out of fiberglass. So
yeah.
The hood is made out of carbon fiber? What? What? I was thinking about that yesterday. Maybe some of our Corvette fans or, people that know anything about Corvettes, and I'll admit that I don't, do they usually have steel hoods? Or aren't they? I don't... Somebody explain this one to me. I don't... Okay. Yeah, I mean, how about make everything else carbon fiber or... All right, whatever. Corvette people. I don't get it. Super fun car, though. That's got to be fast to blast around on the back road.
The Z06 that came after this had floorboards inside the driver's compartment that were made out of, oh my God, what do they call it? The particle board. What's that stuff called?
Balsa wood? Particle wood? Plywood? Particle board. I mean, particle is
underneath the carpet. Underneath the carpets, that's what your feet were resting on in a new Corvette Z06 that came out.
911 has a piece of plywood underneath the, the air-cooled 911s all have a piece of plywood under the pedals.
Ah, good to know. There you go.
FYI, so there's a little wood in your Porsche, but not. That does seem odd.
You're getting Dwayne Wick. I almost said John Wick. You're getting Dwayne Wick excited. He's like, I get to pull the plywood out my pedal board. Yeah,
there's got to be something lighter than a piece of plywood.
Yeah, totally.
Oh,
he's out there now. He's bent over in his garage right now, pulling it out. He's like, I can fix this.
Fiberglass. Make it out of fiberglass. Okay. What else did we see yesterday?
He's going to sand a couple millimeters. All right. The last car, and I promise we're done with this segment. The last car, and arguably the biggest surprise, 1995 Subaru SVX. This was a very interesting car and a footnote in Subaru's history. It didn't work, but where they pivoted from here, John and I agreed, turned out to be a successful pivot because they really started to market their rally and homologation specials and started to appease to their Pacific, what do they call it, North Face crowd that want to, the people that go do it on the weekend and get up at the crack of dawn on a Saturday for no reason at all. That's who they started to pander to, and it worked.
Snowboarders and CrossFitters.
Totally. But our car that we found in somewhere California, it looked like a pile. It just really wasn't in good condition. You and I tore this car apart. The dashboard had shrapnel in it right at the airbag. Yeah. I mean, this could potentially be a bomb. And I was shocked. I bet 4,300. You took the under, which I wasn't surprised by. But this car brought $6,600. 7,000 would get you the nicest one in existence. This is terribly, terribly poorly bought. I feel for the guy who bought it. I think you made a mistake. It's just awful.
Do you remember RoboCop? The car the car of the future that they had there that everybody was excited they were stealing them.
With a Blaupunkt stereo.
No, it was the what the heck was it? It was the 6000 SUX.
Yeah.
And it was because the 6000 sucks. And this is it. This is if you just kind of look at that V, this is the Subaru SUX.
Yep.
Karen Boddicker. I like it.
Yeah.
You could just shoot this with that big 50 caliber explosive machine gun that they had in that movie, and that would have been the only thing proper to do with this piece of junk car. Wow, that's terrible.
But I just remember how everybody wanted a Blaupunkt stereo, though. That was like a catchphrase. Quadraphonic Blaupunkt. Oh my God, too funny. All right, JP. And then on a side note, I won all those. So anyways, my JP has
first
done it
sweep
twice.
of the whole series.
JP has done 2 sweeps, and one of his sweeps included a Yahtzee. That's my first sweep. So, anyways, I'm in the game.
Congrats, Michael Deeb. Congrats. Yeah, maybe you're learning something from Bid Nerds. See, anyone can watch Bid Nerds enough, and you really get good at this. Are you guys good at this? Are you better than us at it? Well, let us know. Get in the comments and say, hey, your bids are off. You're idiots. This is what the bid should actually be. We'd love to hear what you guys think. In fact, tell us what cars you think are the most interesting cars and Bids, and bring a trailer, and we will review them instead of our list. Make sure you subscribe, hit all those buttons. Look at that. There's the, it's Bid Nerds. That's all you got to do is look up Bid Nerds and like us and subscribe and share and let people know that this channel exists.
Help us pick some variety, because if you haven't already, you will notice a pattern of Porsches and all-terrain vehicles. We are definitely one-trick ponies. Yeah.
All right. Well, okay. So let's get to the cars today. We were just, that's the cars from yesterday, and we really, had fun making these predictions. But really, you're here because you saw a thumbnail about a Porsche 911 that doesn't even run. This thing's coming up on Bring a Trailer. And what is going on with this car, Michael? Take it
All right, JP. So out of Beaverton, Oregon, which is
Beaverton.
How far away is that from where you grew up?
Well, I mean, it's 280 miles. It's south. I mean, I'm from Seattle, so this is east. Actually, this is west of downtown Portland. Beaverton is just west of the city there.
Yeah. All right. So it's a ways. It's not It's not. You didn't go there for groceries. All right. Beaverton, Oregon is offering us a 1967 Porsche 911 project car. And JP, what makes this so interesting, 67, if my math is correct, is the last year of the short wheelbase and the first year of the Targa, making this car something of a unicorn. Later cars, 68s, I think were offered with either a soft window or a glass window Targa, but I believe the 67s, and I could be wrong, I'm wrong all the time, 67s were almost exclusively, I say almost as a disclaimer, soft window Targas. So this is a really, really unique car. And you can see, JP, this car is so old, it is sitting on authentic California black plates, which are from the 60s. I don't think black plates rolled into the even the early 70s. I think we were on blue plates by then. So this is a really neat car. It's not running, but it possesses its matching numbers drivetrain according to the numbers that are found on the accompanying certificate of authenticity, which in of itself is a bit of a relic because Porsche no longer offers a certificate of authenticity. So this is a really neat car for somebody, and I would say that a really well professionally restored example of this car would be upwards of $200,000. So the question remains, as our car is sitting here at $29,000, even if it rolls up into let's say the $50,000 range, could you arguably restore this car for under $150,000 and have equity in the finished product? I would be of the mindset that you could, and that that a project of this, in the middle of a pandemic was something you'd at least want to start on your own, and not have to, pay a professional to do the whole thing. So a hobbyist like yourself or like Dwayne Wick or something could do a lot of the things necessary to get this project going, and then you could have somebody perhaps professionally do the body work and paint, and then you'd have yourself a wicked cool car, a short wheelbase of the highest collectible honor being a soft window Targa on a black paint out of California. This would be a really neat finished product, and this thing could have some equity unless it really goes crazy, JP. So what do you think? Am I nuts in thinking that? Am I channeling too much Dwayne Wick?
A Dwayne Wick type of owner is the exact person that could make this work, but even him, I mean, a lot of this rust is kind of beyond his capability, so he's going to have to farm out a lot of that to a body person that really knows what the heck they're doing, and there's no inexpensive way around that. All of those guys, all the people that really know what they're doing with these things are all busy as F.
That's true.
And they've got projects stacked up to the rafters for the next, 30 years, it seems like. So, I love this car. I love the idea of it. Personally, if I had the means, this would be the kind of car that you would, I would go more Joshy Robots than Dwayne Wick and get this car running. Put some floorboards in it, just weld in some floorboards, get this thing running, make sure that it, the brakes work and the suspension works and everything. And then just, with all its just magnificent patina, you get this car in a dry climate like here in Vegas or down in LA or something like that, and just drive the hell out of it the way it is would be so. This would be the coolest car to roll around in all the time and just have a blast.
Bless you.
But yeah, to get it back to full restoration and to get that full value out of it. Whew, yeah, I mean, $150,000 could easily be dropped on this thing because there is not a single thing going for it when it comes to looking at, when you look at a
production
car,
numbers.
Yeah, well, no, don't get me wrong. I mean, there's all kinds of things going for it. But there's, this car has all the fantastic stuff, but the three main things you've got the aesthetic, the mechanical, and the value, the price. Those are the three factors that you got to factor in. Usually you got to have 2 out of 3 in order to make it worth it. So at this point, the aesthetic is shot. It's just it needs all the aesthetic stuff fixed. Mechanically, needs a complete and total mechanical overhaul. Engine, transmission, brakes, every mechanical fluids, system gearbox, in this thing it needs attention and probably complete rebuild. And then now, so the last thing you got is the value and what number will this thing wind up hitting. Even at $30,000, if you bought this, and it still has an hour and a half to go, and I suspect this is going to go much higher.
Much higher.
Yeah. So even at $30,000, you're looking at $150,000 to get this thing going. At the very least, to get this thing restored. Well, not even great, but well. Right. So you're looking at nearly $200,000 and all your time and effort, and that's pretty thin the way I see it.
Yeah, and again, it'll only bring 200,000 if it's expertly done. Yeah. Hank Bars out of Car Park USA out of Costa Mesa, California, is the early 911 specialist that I know of that would do an amazing job. Hank doesn't work for free, not even close. Hank works for profit. He's an artisan. He has expert people. He does the top work, and you pay for that quality. Yep. And by the time
you wait for it too. You don't get it tomorrow. You stroke a check and
Hank is busy. Yeah. Yeah, you stroke a check just to get in line. Yeah, just get in line. And then and the market could change one way or another. The market could change by the time you get in and then get your car done and then get it back. I've seen that happen. And so what I'm saying is by the time you buy this car and then Hank does it, there might not be any equity left. Now, if you plan to keep it, it'll be one of the nicest ones in existence. But if you're looking to turn it as a profit project, that could be tough. You'd have to be somebody that, first of all, like a Dwayne Weck that could do your own work, and like a John Polnik that would ease off on the expectations of the aesthetic just to get it running, get it functional and drive and enjoy it for what it is, which is an old Porsche. And you can't replicate that finish. Look at that hood, JP. That is really cool.
Yeah, so great.
It's awesome. And the black plate, as a California kid, the black plate really gets me going. That's really awesome to see a real black plate on there. That's cool. So without further ado, John, should we?
Yeah. What do you think this is going to hammer at? We got a little over an hour.
Yeah. So it's at 29,000. I think, because it's a short wheelbase, because it's not an S, I'm going to say 45,000. But if I'm wrong, it's because it's all matching numbers. It's a soft window Targa, and maybe the California black plate gives it, a degree of cool. It's not like a quantifiable value. The car's not even in California, but they left them on there. So I could be wrong, and this car might bring 60. But I think 45 because everything you just said and everything I just said. So there you go.
Yeah, I'm going to go over and say 50. Not, I certainly wouldn't buy it for 50, but I think all those things that you talked about, the matching numbers and all that kind of stuff, that's, there's a type of person out here, look, if you have the money to buy this thing for $50,000 and restore it, chances are you have the money to go out and buy one that's already done, and the reason why you haven't is because you want one that nobody else has. Right. So I'm going to take a stab at it and say that it goes for a little bit more because the person that wants this one wants it because they don't want one of the other 4 that you could buy that everybody knows about. And that's, and the person with that kind of money can make that kind of decision. So, but it really, the $10,000, $5,000 delta between your bid and mine, really, what difference does it make? I mean, at that, when you start talking about that much money.
Polo red was the original color. I mean, it's just a neat car. The books and records, the pamphlets that the books are in look like they were really well preserved. It's just the car was driven and it's just kind of beat up, and it'll be neat to see somebody put it back together. I hope somebody drives this car. I'd hate to see it just become a show car or a garage trophy. Right. That would be terrible.
I knew a guy back in the 90s. I had a 914, and I lived at this little place in Seattle. And this buddy of mine, he's somebody I kind of knew, but only because we both had old Porsches. And in the 90s, nobody gave a crap about 914s or old 911s. And he used to roll by every now and then. If I had my 914 out front and I'd be washing it or something like that, he'd roll by and he had this exact car. I mean, it wasn't this color. It was more of that orange. It was like a Mars red or a Guards that had faded faded out or whatever, but it was the same patina. It was beat to hell, but it ran and it drove, and it was a Targa long hood, short wheelbase, and he rolled up and we chatted out for a little bit, and then he'd leave or whatever. But he told me he bought that car for like $4,500, and I don't know if he still has the car to this day, but it's just amazing that these were worthless not that long ago, or at least what feels like it wasn't that long ago.
Great. Good bid, good car. Yeah. That'd be really cool. I hope somebody drives it. Good luck to the seller. All right, man. Let's jump over cars and bids for a second. And JP, I promise I'll stop. I keep doing this, but I am feeling wagons with a manual transmission. You popped up a couple of BMWs. I've looked at a few Volvos, and I told you, man, that yellow T5R was the first one that I ever got. I didn't drive it, but I got a ride in it, and it was man, it just changed my life. So here we have out of Buffalo, New York, 195,000 mile. 2005 Volvo V70R. Again, another 300 horsepower turbocharged inline 5, 6-speed manual. It's got a new clutch, black with tan interior. It's got the right wheels. It's got Brembo brakes. Dude, this car is I just think it's really cool, man. I don't know. I think there must be one coming to me in my future because I keep gravitating to these. Other than that, no nonsense. Not a lot of modifications on this one, if any at all. It's got some recent service history. By all accounts, it looks to be a very nice, very honest car, just offered to us in a terrible part of the country for the beginning of February, being in Buffalo, New York, which is, JP, correct me if I'm wrong, is that not Lower Canada?
Yeah, it's the North, man. It is the North. It is past the wall. You are... White Walker country right here.
Is Buffalo the name of the exit you take to go see the Grant? What is it? The Niagara Falls? I don't know.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Toronto,
no
South,
reserve
right?
auction. Toronto. No reserve auction. It's at $4,269 on 22 bids. JP, I promise I'll quit doing this. But what do you think of this one?
It's an R. I do like
rock
these.
This car?
Yeah, I would totally rock this car. I really, it is a manual, right? Yeah, it's hard to tell. Yeah, okay, they got the 3 pedals down there.
I know it's a
Volvo
funny stick,
has
right?
this stick with this little thing that's always, you got to look at it twice. But the R's are really cool, man, and I like the color combo. It's got enough black in the interior that doesn't make it a sea of ugly beige. Volvo leather of this era just does not hold up, and I know you hate driver's seats and look at them and go, oh, if it's trashed, it means the car's been trashed. But don't judge this car by the driver's seat. Volvo wet leather is the worst leather in the business. Hands down.
Well, not
it just does not hold up, man. I mean, look at this stuff. It just falls apart. So that's a problem with the interior on these things, but a really cool car that's going to be a lot of fun to drive in the weather, and this is going to be a lot cooler than your CrossFit, friend who drives a Subaru, whatever, and loves their dog. And I'm a dog lover, but this car is way cooler than anything you could get from one of the other companies that makes all-wheel drive stuff. But what's it going to go for? That's the big question, right?
Great car for the money. I would think this car could bring, I don't know, man. I mean, $7,500 to $9,000 if it wasn't in Buffalo in February, but it is. So I don't know, man, JP. I put $7,000, but I think I'm just going to take a little money off it and go $6,000 and try to stick it to you. Make a hard decision instead of an easy decision. Don't forget, John, it's a no reserve auction, and it's a no nonsense car. So
yeah, I don't think my decision's that tough. I mean, it is getting some bids here in the last hours, I guess, but it's got 195,000 miles on it, and it's in White Walker land. This thing,
White Walker.
you gotta cross the wall, man. This is like
totally,
and then get this car back. It's not going to be worth it to ship this thing anywhere. So $5,000,
but you can drive it.
If it gets if it gets a single other bid, I'll be kind of surprised. But I'm going to say $5,000. I think this thing
throw
is
down the gauntlet.
I think it's DOA. If the interior were nicer and it had fewer miles, but yeah, this car has some pretty big negatives against it and where it lives. I don't, the pictures really didn't. I don't know if we got to the pictures where it showed underneath the car, but I can only imagine this thing. Yeah. Yep. All right. Moving on. Again, dig the car. I love sporty wagons, and this one's. I think it's cool because it's not a BMW, and we talk about BMW wagon all the time, and so this is a little bit different. So that's kind of fun.
All right.
Moving on. What do we got next?
Okay, JP. So we are going to jump back over to Bring a Trailer and look at a classic Corvette. This is a 1967 Chevrolet Corvette convertible with a 4-speed. Now, later in the C2 platform, instead of having many different horsepower options for the 327, they either had a base or they had a 350 horsepower. And then the big option was to go to a big block. So our car, I believe, is just a standard 327, which probably makes just a little over 300 horsepower. However, our car, which is in excellent cosmetic condition and offered to us out of Sherman Oaks, California, has a replacement motor. It is not the matching numbers engine. And as such, when the new motor was put into this car, the motor was rebuilt by H&H Engine Rebuilding of La Crescenta, California, and features a 407-inch overbore, which, JP, correct me if I'm wrong, that means that this car is no longer a 327, but probably like a 340 or a 380 or something like that. This is a bored-out small block, which means it probably makes wicked cool horsepower. It's got a big 4-barrel Weber carburetor.
You got a Boston thing going on today.
Yeah, and probably wicked cool, and probably rocks. A lot of these cars, because they're fiberglass and because they're old, really look, like hell. And this car looks to be, by all accounts, like a nice refreshment or refurbishment of the cosmetics. The paint looks good. The interior looks good. I actually like the silver and black and the sort of deep dish wheels. And I said to you the other day that this is one of my favorite old American cars. So I really like this car. And without the matching numbers motor, it might wind up being a pretty decent value, although it's already up to $46,000 on 16 bids. What do you say, John?
Yeah, man, this thing's cool as hell. This is, if it had a carbon fiber hood, it would go for all kinds of extra money. That's a little joke on the stupid edition of the C5 that we talked about yesterday, but this car looks so awesome. I love the patina. What's that? I lost you there, D. What was that?
I didn't say it. You go.
Oh, okay. Yeah, no, I mean, look at these
John.
gauges. Those gauges are just so, well, as Michael Deeb would say, wicked cool. Even with the crack across the speedometer, I'm totally down with that. I'm sorry, tachometer, or speedometer. I don't know what the heck that was. This car is great. And I like that it's not a resto mod. There's nothing worse than these guys that take like a newer Corvette and make it look like an older one, or they take an old Corvette and they put like a completely modern, powertrain in it and stuff like that. I think all that stuff is silly. I think this is the perfect way to go. You take, you take a period correct engine, you build it, and you put it in the period in a real car, and you don't make it perfect. And this is kind of the way I would like to see that 67 Targa that we just talked about, restored. Don't fully bring it back to perfect. Bring it back to driver, and just, own its imperfections and just and marvel in them. This car is just gorgeous. I have said on record that I do like the 55 Thunderbird. I think it's in black. I think it's a beautiful car, but I think this is a beautiful car in a different way. It's definitely, an American sports car, the way you think of them, and the way that you kind of wish that they continued to go, but certainly didn't.
Agreed. This is a beautiful car, and I actually think this would be a car that you would absolutely enjoy driving. Now, again, it might not be. I don't know that you could really make this car handle, but you can button it down, and it's really fun to go through the gears. And then I really appreciate what you're saying, that like this guy brought this car back to 60s Corvette, and again he resisted the temptation to put modern 17-inch wheels on it, and just leave those original 15-inch wheels, and that original steering wheel is very cool. I think the Corvettes used a rosewood on the rim of the steering wheel, which is really cool. And if I'm wrong, then it's teak, but I forget, somewhere between the Shelby and the Corvette, one uses rosewood, one uses teak, and I'm such a European nut, I don't know the difference. But
how is this not a place that you want to spend time? I mean, look at that cockpit.
It's such a cool car, man. I love that thing.
P51 Mustang or something like that.
It is so cool. It really is a neat car. And I liked it. And then again, he put a 327 in it, and then boarded out and got his, I'm guessing, close to 400 horsepower. And this thing is probably a blast. So a great value, John. It's sitting at $46,000. I think, I put 50 grand and it's looking like it might be a bit conservative for a bid. How much action is on this car? Let me see if I want to change my bid.
It does 16. Look like it's getting a bunch of love at the last second here.
Yeah, I'm what did I put? Oh no, sorry. I put 65. I was looking at the wrong column. So John, it's at 46. I put 65,000. I'm going to leave my bid there. I'm going to say 65 grand, which might be high. But it's still a great value for the money. It might need a matching numbers drivetrain to reach my number, but if not, it's still that's a handsome car. Go for it.
Yeah, is this on Cars and Bids or no? This is on Bring a Trailer.
Bring a Trailer and offered out of Sherman Oaks, California, down in Southern California.
I'm going to bet the under, but not far. I'm going to go 60 just because, like you said, not the matching number and everything. But for my money, this is the car I want. I don't care about the matching number crap. Right. I would rather get the value, get a car that I actually want to be seen in, and wouldn't care about scratching up and just taking on a coastal range rally or even a it'd be so much fun to show up to Ben's place and do a professor run in this instead of a Porsche.
It would be.
That's the kind of thing.
Would. Yeah,
I mean, and he would love it.
Absolutely keep up in that car. Trust me. You'd be able to keep on a.
Yeah, there are enough straightaways.
Oh man, yeah. Let's
you
go.
Catch all the old 911s. Beautiful car.
All right.
Love it.
Okay, let's jump back over to Cars and Bids and let's jump into the dirt. We are looking at a 1991 AM General M998, which is the last 3 digits of my phone number if you want to call me and tell me what an asshole. But this is, correct me if I'm wrong, isn't this a Hummer, a Humvee?
Yeah,
this is
the deal. This is the real deal.
And this is an ex-military that, according to Doug DeMiro, was decommissioned in 2014. So I guess this car was built to government spec. It was used as a sand. I read this earlier, but it was like, this was an all-purpose, multi-purpose vehicle, and it was used out, in the wilderness and stuff. Like, this is the real deal. And then it was repainted from the military green to the sand beige, which leads Doug DeMiro or his staff to believe that they repurposed it while it was in the military, and then it was offered for sale. So our car here is sitting at 21,700 miles, but it's on a 5-digit odometer, so it's true mileage unknown. This probably has 127,000 miles. This car
might have 327.
It might have,
miles.
Who knows? Yeah, thank you, John.
Yeah.
It uses the 6.2 liter diesel V8 with a 3-speed automatic. It is 4-wheel drive, and truly, John, they said it would go through 30 inches of water. Like, I mean, this you could cross a river with this thing. Truly an amazing vehicle. And they tend to hold their value pretty well, but this one looks like a pretty decent value sitting there at just $11,000. Am I missing something? I thought these brought way more dollars than that. So anyway, take it away. What do you think of this thing? No reserve auction, I should add. This is going to sell no matter what.
Yeah, I mean, these decommissioned cars out of the military, I mean, this has Washington plates, you notice. So this probably sat over in eastern Washington as a training vehicle or something like that out in Yakima, where they do, where they train people how to go out to the desert and blow stuff up. Cool. Look, here's the thing. Unlike the Hummer H1 that you get or that you could have gotten at a Hummer dealership back in the day, or like the ones that Arnold Schwarzenegger drove around, zero creature comforts in these things. Nothing. Right. No. I mean, there isn't even padding in the seats. I don't know if these have heat.
No Bluetooth.
Yeah, right. You are not going to sync your phone with this thing because there's no radio in it to be had. Keep in mind too, and the big thing that people are most surprised about is this car probably tops out at 45, maybe 50 miles an hour. Yeah. So going on the freeway is going to be a challenge. Sure. They are geared for driving in places where there are either no roads or the roads have literally been blown up. So they are not designed to necessarily go fast, but slow crawl over almost anything. If it's possible for a vehicle to get over an obstacle, this is the vehicle that will be able to do it. But look at that interior. Unlike that Corvette that we were talking about, this is not a place that you're probably going to want to spend a whole heck of a lot of time, or certainly a road trip. So even the ones that are made for consumers aren't particularly fast. I mean, maybe they go go 65 miles an hour. But even with the potential of having 500,000 miles on this thing, it's a diesel. It's that Cummins diesel. These are basically commercial truck
bulletproof
engines that are
literally
and so some shop PX guy or whatever, the motor pool guys just constantly replacing the same parts over and over again. But I doubt this car has seen overseas service. I'm quite positive that if it's from Washington, it's the vehicle that spent Eastern Washington time. So it probably doesn't have any IED shrapnel in it or anything.
Right. Our car is actually in LA, despite the Washington plate. So it's offered out of LA, Los Angeles, California. And with 185 horsepower and 330 pound-foot of torque. Yes, this car is designed to climb and forward. It's not the road trip vehicle. We will not be taking this to that Porsche festival in Miami in a couple weeks time.
This is the kind of rig that you get if you bought that bug out property out in the desert or out in the country somewhere, and you're like, you know what, the end of the world, the end is nigh, and when the solar flare hits and knocks us back into the 18th century, you can replace the points on this thing and be off and running. End of the world rig, but it'd be, you could come here to Vegas and you could open a gun range where people can shoot machine guns, and you could go pick them up from their hotel in one of these, which is what you see a lot of them doing here.
Right. Go up against the side of a hill in the desert. Let people sit in the back, and you could open a drive-by shooting range.
There you go. All right. So do you have a guess on where this is? I mean, 11.7, 16
So, JP,
bids.
I fully expect you to kill me today with these with the bids, because I really don't know what one of these is worth. I wrote $25,000, but it just doesn't look like it's going to bring that kind of money. Being on Cars and Bids, I'm not even sure it'll bring 17, but 15 seems too conservative. I'll go 15,000. I'm just going to leave it there. I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know. It seems like a steal to me, though.
It's not, I mean, these 15 grand is about what it's worth, give or take 5. So in this one, it's got the side. A lot of times you see them without any doors at all and no roof. You can get them for 10, 12 grand or something like that. This one, I would prefer personally, if I'm getting one, I would prefer the 4-door. This one is more of the kind of the pickup truck style, which really, is probably the better configuration, because as huge as these things are, they fit 4 people and that's it. The massive hub in between the engine and the, because all the transmission stuff is hidden, all the drivetrain and differentials all hidden up inside, so it's not dragging down beneath, and it's also protected. So there's just like, when you sit in one of these in the driver's seat, you are looking at your passenger like, hey guy, text me if you want to talk, and same thing in the passenger. There's just a massive amount of room, and it's this high. I mean, it's sitting right by the side of your face. There's no room in these things. So to set it up as a pickup truck probably makes more sense.
Like they're at the opposite window of a jumbo jet.
I mean, you really have to have comms in these things in order to hear the other guy, especially in something like this. Probably, I mean, the modern ones have a little bit of insulation, but not these. What a cool rig to have, though, if you've got an extra spare 15, 20 grand laying around and you want to look cool and you want to be ready for the apocalypse. There you go. So you said 15 grand. I'm gonna go 1,000 under and go 14. This is Cars and Bids. Cool. Maybe if it were on Bring a Trailer, you'd find some rich person to be like, oh yeah, I don't have one of these in the garage and I have a spot. So, but I don't think Cars and Bids is the right place for it.
Okay, Jay, let's look at this one now.
All right.
Gonna jump back over to Bring a Trailer for our final car. It's a 1995 Land Rover Range Rover. It's the classic, the country classic. Out of Glendale, California. Our car has 141,000 miles on it. On the 4.2 liter V8 with the 4-speed automatic. That's about 200 horsepower and 250 pound-foot of torque. These things weren't particularly fast. They're a little bit heavy, but they truly can
little
go.
Bit heavy? They're a lot bit heavy.
They can go anywhere. And I just remember this generation of Range Rover, for me, sort of cemented their current legacy into that. It was became like a luxury status symbol that you had. An overblown British, overland vehicle that no longer was, a British Jeep with goofy electrical. Now you had, wood and air conditioning that worked and leather and, all the accoutrement, even though I think the build quality on these, maybe from a drivetrain standpoint was good, but like my experience was that people had always had problems where, buttons didn't work in the car, the window lift stopped working, or something didn't function, a door would stick, or whatever the case may be. But anyways, to me, this is kind of the car that really changed the perception of Range Rover or Land Rover in the United States. And these were everywhere in the Bay Area when I was in, let's say, the 90s, right? In the 90s and 2000s, when I was in my late 20s and early 30s, every kid, my age was like, oh, I want to buy a Range Rover. They just thought that was the coolest thing. So I don't know. A lot of friends had them and they were always problematic, but they are a status symbol and you can't deny that. So what do you say, JP? Is there something more to it that I'm missing? They have extremely capable, but they have to be running first, right?
Yeah, I mean, you're absolutely right about these vehicles kind of changing the world. I mean, during the mid '80s, you saw the beginnings of the whole SUV thing. The whole Grand Wagoneer, the Jeep Grand Wagoneer had been around forever, but was very old looking. And Toyota came out and with their 4Runner, and the Nissan with the Pathfinder, and those were cool 4-door, or some of them had 4-door SUVs, but they were particularly Spartan. Maybe they had power windows, maybe they had AC, but they certainly didn't drive nicely. This was a car that you're absolutely right. The Range Rover was a farm vehicle, had, or something that you see out in the safari. And then when this version of this body style had been around since I think the 70s or whatever, but also very Spartan in their early versions, with manual transmissions and hardly anything else. But they made this version with all the accoutrement. You say AC that works, not so much, but they did have AC, and they did have power seats, and they did have all that stuff, and they rode beautifully. And,
those captain's chairs in the front too was like you were like you were Captain Kirk looking out the Enterprise. It was like you were in the lap of luxury. Yeah.
It's so true. My dad was he had a Blazer, like a K5 Blazer, and he loved that thing, but the thing that was immediate that you noticed when you got into one of these is look at where the steering wheel is, and look at the seat. You're sitting all the way up here. Your elbow level is right there with the top of the window. So you're absolutely right that you feel like you're looking out over the world, and you command it. And there's just a certain feeling that you get when you sit in a Land Rover, particularly a Rangy. This one of this year being, I believe, the last year of this body style. It incorporated the Discovery of the same era's dashboard and steering wheel and all the buttons and stuff like that. So that stuff worked a lot better than the older versions, but still was terribly, terribly problematic. I believe this had a larger engine the last couple of years. Would this one have like a
4.2?
4.2. Yeah, the older ones had the 3.5. So this one had a lot more power than the older one. So it actually felt like it could kind of get out of its own way. Certainly not fast, but the rappers liked them. They started showing up in movies, and smart, important, luxurious looking people were driving them in Hollywood, and that just took off.
Especially in the Bay Area. It became the status symbol. 200 horsepower, 250 pound-foot of torque from the 4.2 liter V8 4-speed automatic. These were the long wheelbase country classics. So this was the top of the line. And I should mention, and then tell me, JP, your thing. Our car here, despite having 140,000 miles, looks really clean. I mean, it's really nice condition.
Color's so gorgeous too. Oh.
It's cream, and they have cream wheels, which I can't remember seeing a matching color wheel to the car like that. That's such a Porsche thing from the 80s. It's funny to see that on a Land Rover from the 90s, but man, this car brings back a lot of memories. My friend Martel Toller had a black one, and he drove that car everywhere. And I remember, working at the restaurant, he'd swing by to say hello, and I'd run out, to go say hello to him. I just remember leaning my elbows on the windshield line, and he's listening to really cool music in the stereo. And I just remember like talking to him, and because I'm a car guy, like I'd be talking to Marty, and then I'd be looking around at his car going, man, this thing's freaking cool. But I wouldn't even dream of buying one because I knew they were built like shit, So anyways, JP, I think this car might bring $33,000. Am I completely smoking illegal substances?
Man,
or what?
it sure is possible. I mean, that's a lot of miles, but this thing is so clean, and it's a last year. It's the classic. It's an LWD, so it's the long wheelbase. And this is certainly of the era that's coming back. This is, I mean, for 30 grand, this is cooler than anything Range Rover makes now.
Radwood royalty?
Yeah, Radwood royalty, and just classy as F everywhere you go. Buying this, that you're going to be dealing with problems. I mean, there it is. You can get these for 5 or 6 grand, but they are going to be complete hunks of junk. It is very difficult to find one this clean. It's in Glendale, California. So I mean, somebody in California wants this thing, and they're the person that can afford to own it. And if it does break down, they'll just go get in their brand new Porsche Cayenne or whatever else they drive in the garage. But this is just, you can't be cooler going to the country club or out to the coast or wherever the heck you go, showing up in this, handing this to a valet. You're just like, so cool.
Listen, if you live anywhere in Southern California, I mean, obviously it gets really difficult down in Costa Mesa, but if you live in Hollywood or out at Santa Monica, Malibu and all that stuff, go up to, I think it's like Pismo Beach, San Luis Obispo, British sports cars. Justin Jurgens is a fan of the Bid Nerds, and he is taking over his father's business there. They have all the parts and all of the expertise to work on your British car. If you lived anywhere in that area, you could buy one of these guilt-free, because Justin Jurgens at British Sports Cars will take care of you. Those guys are fantastic, worth the drive. So what do you think, JP? I said 33. Where are you at?
30, maybe.
30. All right, maybe
30.
Yeah.
I think that's tops for one of these. It's so nice.
It might be.
If it had low miles, it'd be a whole different story. This thing could really go crazy. But 145 is a lot of miles.
It is a lot of miles, but I was basing my high bid on condition, and then I love that you reaffirmed it with this is basically the last year of that particular model's platform, which had the updates, the bigger motor, the better dash.
Yeah, it doesn't mean it's any more reliability. I don't know if that's where you're going.
And again, I don't think you spend money on this because of reliability. I think you think it because of it, because it's cool.
Yeah, it is super, super cool. Chuck Woolery. I remember when I went down to L.A., I was driving a Wrangler, the exact same color. I had a Wrangler. And I looked over, and there was Chuck Woolery in one of these, where I was on like Santa Monica Boulevard, and he just looks over me, and he gives me a nod and goes, 2 and 2. See you in 2 and 2. Remember dating game for you guys.
That is
old
awesome.
Feckers that are watching the show. He was a good fellow there. All right, guys, there it is. That's another edition of Bid Nerds, your daily nerd out on the most interesting cars of the day on Cars and Bids and Bring a Trailer. My name is John Polnik, along with my partner Michael Deeb from San Francisco. I'm in Las Vegas. Thank you guys so much for joining us today. Make sure you hit the subscribe and like button if you haven't already. Share the channel. Let people know we're here. Let us know about the cars that you think are the most interesting cars of the day on Cars and Bids and Bring a Trailer, and maybe we'll review one of those. Shout out to all the people who have been commenting and liking Old School, and David Sullivan for listening every day, and all our friends out there, and of course the crew that helps us out. We will see you tomorrow. We do this Monday through Friday every morning during about the 9 o'clock-ish hours when we record. So we will see you tomorrow.
Hump day. Later.